another training program designed to teach you one thing.
If you are a lifelong iOS, iPhone user or an Android user looking in, I think you're going to like this one because Apple has recently been putting a lot of effort into what their core customer fan base have been asking for: more customization and more exclusive iOS features, some of which I think Android users would love, and dare I say, may even be a little bit jealous of. And if you've just picked up a new iPhone, here are 10 tips and tricks that you can show off to your Android friends. So have you ever connected your iPhone to a Bluetooth speaker and you're jamming, and then suddenly an opportunity presents itself and you want to take a photo or a video to capture that very moment, but as soon as you open up your camera app, the music stops and completely kills the moment? Well, on the iPhone now, that won't happen when you open the camera app. So as you can see, the camera app is now open. I can switch to video and even film a video with the background music still playing without interruption. So to double check that this feature is enabled on your phone, you need to go into your settings, scroll down till you see camera, and in the camera options, you will see record sound. If you tap on this, you'll see this little tick box here that says allow audio playback. Just enable that switch. Now, when you are connected to a Bluetooth speaker and you're recording at the same time, just be aware of the fact that it will only record audio in mono. But the fact is you can still listen to music and record at the same time, so you can capture the atmosphere without suddenly putting a stop to the music. Now, something that I think you'll like is Apple's new approach to the control center. You could always modify what appears here, but the big difference now is you have these additional pages that really takes things up a notch. So you have a page specifically for music and then one specifically for connectivity. And you do get the option to add another page, which you can populate with some of iOS's secret weapons, and I'll show you what those are if you stick around. So to customize the control center page, all you need to do is hit the plus in the top left corner. Then you'll see all of the empty spaces where you can add additional tools. So if you hit add control here, you'll see a bunch of options. Now, because it's an audio page, you probably want to add audio tools. And here's a couple of suggestions. The sound recognition tool is a very good one to add. So this will allow you to identify music that's playing in the background, and you can expand this, make it a bit bigger. That way it's easier to find when you need to detect what music's being played. Another audio tool worth adding here is the headphone levels. That way you can kind of protect yourself from blasting your ears into oblivion when listening to music. And here's something I highly recommend you set up straight away. Hit the add control again and scroll down to the audio section once again and add this, background sounds. I say this because next time you're on a plane and you're trying to relax or you're trying to sleep, you can have your noise cancelling headphones on and that will help. But the reality is noise cancelling isn't quite good enough to block out all of the noise. And these background sounds are perfect when combined with ANC, because when you use the combination of those two things, you can block out the sound of crying babies and annoying chatty people in the seats next to you. And these ambient sounds are actually native to iOS, so they'll be on every single iPhone. And I do wish Android would add something like this to their operating system. And this, in my opinion, is nice.
Nice.
Okay, so here's something quite new to iOS, but has been on Android for quite a while. But of course, Apple has added their own flavor to this, making this customization tweak quite unique. To access this, just hold your finger down on the home screen anywhere, hit edit in the top left corner, and go to customize. So here you can change the size of the app icons to large. This removes the app names beneath them, which gives your home screen a bit more of a tidy look with less text. And if you hit this sun icon, you can now darken your wallpaper to add a bit more contrast between the app icons and the background. But my favorite feature by far when it comes to this is the new dark mode for your app icons. And you can set this to automatic, so it will change in time with your dark mode if you do have it on a schedule. And check this one out, tinted. If you go to this, you can actually choose the color of the icons. And the slider underneath actually changes the saturation of that color. And if you really want, you can use the eyedropper tool to grab a color from your wallpaper so that your app icons match your color scheme perfectly. Okay, so I'm going to tell you something you already know. A lot of websites can be quite annoying, especially when they're full of adverts and ads that seem to follow you around from website to website, often trying to sell you things that really aren't your bag.
One Swedish-made pump.
That's not mine.
And yes, you can get third-party ad blockers on iOS and Android, but within Apple Safari, there's now a brilliant new tool that allows you to read what you intended to read without getting sidetracked and accidentally ordering 10 items for a tenner on Temu. Or in this case, some Nick Cage bed sheets. To use it, navigate to a website that you'd like to read, and on the left of the search bar, you'll see this little icon with a little square and 2 lines beneath it. And this tool may change depending on the type of website you're on. But if you tap that, you'll see the option to hide distracting items. You can now tap on parts of the page that you'd like to hide. And once you're happy with that, you can hit done and carry on about your day until you see another Nick Cage bed sheet. And then you can just go back to it and go to hide distracting items again, tap on that, and there you go, it's gone. Now on some web pages you'll see Reader available. When you see that, if you tap on it and go to Show Reader, this removes all of the distractions in one go without you having to select them. And then you also get more options within the Reader here. So you can change the background to a color that works better for you. You can even change the font of the text so you can make it easier to read. And you also get the option to listen to the page, so it will read out the page for you.
If you find yourself in a situation where you're considering upgrading your smartphone, maybe you've been on Apple iOS since the dawn of time, or vice versa, and you're a lifelong Android user. Are you worried about missing out on features you are used to having? Or are you concerned about the learning curve involved in making the switch?
And of course you can change the font size as well, so you can make it even more readable. Okay, so this next one isn't going to blow your mind. That's why it's a bonus tip. It's just a nice effect and it's switched off by default here on the iPhone. So check this out. If you go into your settings, go to sound and haptics. On this page, scroll down till you see keyboard feedback and enable the haptics for your keyboard. And you might want to switch off the sound if it's annoying for you, that sort of tappy sound. Anyway, once this is enabled, you get this really nice feedback from the keyboard whenever you're typing, sort of like using an actual keyboard in a way. Now something else you might like is if you go back and back again, and this time we're going to go to the accessibility options and Face ID and attention. And on this page, enable haptic on successful authentication. It kind of gives you the feeling of a padlock unlocking whenever your face is recognized by the Face ID sensors on the front. Okay, something that's quite unique to the iPhone is this Pro RAW format. And before you say this is just the same as a RAW format on any phone, well, it's actually not. It's a combination of a raw image and Apple image signal processing. And the file that it puts out is actually optimized specifically for iPhones and Apple hardware. And this allows the iPhone's camera app to actually edit them properly without third-party apps. Anyway, by default, some of you might already know this, but the iPhone uses what's known as pixel binning to combine light gathered across the 48 million pixels that it has into either a 12 or 24 megapixel photo. So this helps a lot when it comes to post image signal processing on the phone. And to put this simply, the iPhone will do a lot of the heavy lifting for you in lower light settings and more challenging lighting conditions. However, if your surrounding lighting is perfect, for example, it's the golden hour in the morning, or you have some professional lighting set up, you can get a lot more from the iPhone's camera if you do this. Go to your settings, scroll down to camera. Here, go to formats and make sure you enable the Pro RAW and resolution controls button. Now the next step to this is to go into the Pro defaults here. Make sure you have Pro RAW up to 48 megapixels enabled. And if you want the maximum when it comes to JPEG quality, you can set it to JPEG XL lossless. So now that you've enabled this, you'll see the option up here to switch on the RAW max. So let's take a photo using that. If we go to the information, you'll see it's using the Fusion camera 24mm and it's 48 megapixels. Now the other thing you can do here is actually hold your finger on where it says RAW max and either choose between RAW 12 megapixel or JPEG max. And if we use JPEG max, once again you'll see it's using the full 48 megapixels. So if you didn't spend your life savings on the 1 terabyte version of the iPhone, I definitely recommend you use this next trick. Go back into your settings, go to camera, go to formats and Pro default. And here you can set the Pro default to JPEG max up to 48 megapixels. And if you go with the most compatible JPEG lossless, this will immediately reduce the file sizes when shooting in Pro RAW. And if you go back one step, you can change the default for the camera capture mode to high efficiency image format, HEIF for short, and this will make the file sizes significantly smaller at around 1/9 of the size of the JPEG lossless that the iPhone will default to. So you'll still get tons of detail there, which will work perfectly on an iPhone, also on a Mac. But these HEIF files can sometimes be trickier to work with on third-party apps, so just be aware of that. Now, on the other hand, if you want the best image quality and storage is not a concern, then definitely go back into the formats and go to Pro Default and use the Pro RAW Max up to 48 megapixel and change the Pro RAW format to JPEG XL lossless. And these settings will be perfect for you if you plan to blow your images up for a canvas print, or if you plan to work on the image in Adobe Lightroom or Photoshop or something like that after taking the photo. Now, the iPhone's action button is something incredibly useful if utilized in the correct way that works for you. By default, it is the mute button for the phone, but if you jump into the settings menu, then go to the action button and swipe all the way across until you see shortcuts, here you can make it even more useful. So for example, instead of just waiting for Apple Intelligence to launch, you could immediately set this up to open ChatGPT. But you can take this one step further. Why just have one shortcut mapped to the action button when you can have 8? Here's how you can set this up. Scroll all the way across to your app library and search for your shortcuts app. This is an official Apple app. Open this up and go back to the home page, which looks like this. Here you'll see I actually already have set up an action button folder, but to create your own one, just hit the little icon here at the top right corner to create a new folder, give it a name, give it an icon. Once you've done that, you can then tap on the folder itself, and in the top right corner of your newly created folder, if you hit the plus, you can begin to add different controls into this action button folder. And as you can see, the ones that I've set up already are mainly to do with my car, so I don't have to open the car app to perform these various actions. I've also set up the silent mode, just like the action button was originally. I've also set up an AI conversation mode, as well as quick access to my security cameras and security alarm. Now, I'm not going to go into depth about how to create custom shortcuts in this video, but let me know if you want to see a video like that from me. If I get enough requests, I will.
Make it so.
Now, the last step to get this working properly is to go back into your settings one last time, come back to the action button menu, go to the shortcut page, which looks like this. Here, set it to show folder and then choose your action button folder, which you've just set up, and it should appear like this. And now if you need to initiate one of these quick actions, you just hold your finger on the action button and there you go. You've got all 8 of them ready to go. And when you want to get rid of this menu, you just swipe up like so. So if you're in the iMessage bubble, then you're going to love this one. And there's also a little trick here that can help you save money if some of your friends are outside of the Apple ecosystem. But let's start with the iMessage trick first. So next time you're writing a message and you want to emphasize a very important part of that message, just hold down your finger on the text that you want to highlight. Then you'll see the option for text effect. This can give your words a little more meaning and a little more impact when they're read. For example, like this. But you know, sometimes I don't know why I bother asking this question anymore, because whenever I ask people to subscribe, normally they're like,
No, I don't think I will.
Anyway, that money saving tip that I mentioned, go back to your settings, scroll down till you see apps, go to your messages app, scroll down till you see RCS messaging, and make sure that this is enabled. Once you've done this, your iPhone will use mobile data instead of SMS to send messages to Android users. That way your mobile operator can't charge you for those messages. Also, this means you can send higher quality images and videos via the iOS messages app. So I do highly recommend you switch this on if it isn't on already. And here's another little tip that I highly recommend. This one's just kind of a bonus one. Once again, within your settings, scroll all the way down to the apps. And then this time we're going to scroll down to phone. And then within the phone settings, if this isn't already enabled, I do recommend you switch it on. And even more so if you live in an area with low signal, switch on Wi-Fi calling. This way, whenever the signal is low, your phone will use Wi-Fi if it is connected to Wi-Fi. And typically this means you'll get clearer calls and connectivity will be less of an issue when making phone calls. And if you really want to, you can add Wi-Fi calling to your other devices, so you can actually make phone calls from your iPad or your MacBook if you want to. But I don't advise you do this if you do let other people use your iPad or your MacBook. Anyway, moving on. Now here's a question for you. Did you know that some apps on your phone can actually detect what you're looking at on the screen with surprisingly good accuracy? And this is primarily used for research and marketing purposes, which really doesn't benefit you that much. But did you know you can actually use this technology to your advantage? Now remember that page that I talked about at the beginning of the video where you can add some secret weapons? Well, check this out. Open up your control center, hit the little plus in the top left corner, and then scroll all the way down to the last page where nothing exists at this point in time. Now, if you hit the add control at the bottom, we can add the secret weapons on the iPhone. At the top here, just to save time, I'm going to type it in. It's called eye tracking. So if you add this to your new page within your control panel and make it bigger, because why not? Once you've done that, you can now activate eye tracking just by tapping this. Your face will need to be in view of the front camera for this to be set up correctly, because this does need to be calibrated and synchronized with your eyes. So you simply just follow this dot around and the phone will begin to learn how your eyes move in relation to the screen. Now, once it's configured, you can simply control the entire user interface with your eyes. And honestly, this is quite unbelievable as to how accurate it is when it comes to targeting certain things on the screen. And just by blinking twice, you can select what it is you're looking at. Oh God, it's Nick Cage again. So now that you've got this fourth page set up on your control center, if you swipe inwards and keep your finger held down, you can actually swipe between these 4 pages very, very quickly. So once you've set this up, you can control your phone without using your hands at all. I mean, this is next level kind of stuff right here. And it could be the beginning of the future when it comes to user interfaces. And who knows, one day kids looking at your old school iPhones might be like,
You have to use your hands? That's like a baby's toy.
Okay, number 10, here's another helpful tool. It can be really useful if your hands are full and you're a bit too far away from your device to use your newfound eye tracking skills. So just like before, let's swipe inwards, but this time I'm going to keep my finger held down and swipe all the way down to the bottom. That's a quick way to swipe between these control panel pages. Once again, we're going to hit the plus in the top left corner and add control at the bottom. This time we're going to go to voice control, and you'll find it here in the motor accessibility option. We're going to add that and make it bigger, because why not? Now, when you enable this, you can actually control your phone from a distance using just your voice. Go home. Now, there are a bunch of commands that your phone will recognize. The downside to this is your phone will always be listening. That's why that orange dot is up here in the dynamic island. But before you go ahead and start using this, I do highly recommend you run through the tutorial for the voice controls so you know what it does and doesn't recognize in terms of commands. And to find this tutorial, all you need to do is jump into your settings, then accessibility. Here you'll see voice control, tap on that, and at the top here you will see open voice control tutorial. And once you master it, it can be incredibly useful when you're cooking, or it's one of those days when you're feeling so lazy you don't even want to lift a finger, which is me pretty much every Sunday. So you've made it to the end, and thank you so much for sticking around this long. And as a reward for making it this far into the video, here's a few more bonus tips and tricks for you that you might like. Okay, bonus tip number 1, go to your settings page, go to accessibility. Here, go to the touch menu and scroll all the way to the bottom till you see back tap. Here you can set up a double tap or a triple tap on the back of the device to initiate an action. We've already got a bunch of shortcuts set up already, so maybe this could be something that you use less often. For example, on the triple tap, I'm going to set this up to mirror my Apple Watch on the phone. Now you might be wondering, why the hell would I set that up? Well, it's actually easier to edit the home screens on the Apple Watch using the bigger display on your phone. On that topic, here's bonus tip number 2. This feature is still in beta, but you'll love it if you have an Apple Mac, and your Mac does need to be running the latest version of Mac OS Sequoia. And if your iPhone is still running the older software, you might want to jump into your settings, go to General, and go to Software Update. Here you'll see automatic updates, but beneath it you'll see beta updates. So if you want to test out the latest software, here's how you can do that. Just go to the beta section, turn on beta updates, and then you should see the option to get the latest version. Now, once you've got the latest version on your Mac and on your iPhone, you should see a new app icon that looks like this. It is the iPhone mirroring app, and this will only work when your iPhone is not in use. So if you're actually using your iPhone at the time, it won't work. So make sure your iPhone's locked before you boot up the iPhone mirroring app. Once you've done that, you can fully control your iPhone from your Mac computer. Now, I am a fan of the dynamic island. I know some people think it's gimmicky, but I actually think it's very useful. It's fantastic for quick access to media controls and things like that, and timers, and also if you order stuff from Uber Eats or if you order an Uber taxi. But something that's really cool that Apple have recently added is the new flashlight interface. So I'm just going to stop this video that's playing in the background. I'm going to open the flashlight here, and you'll see the controls pop up at the top. Now they'll quickly disappear, but if you want to access these controls again, just hold your finger down. But what's really fantastic about this is you can adjust the strength of the flashlight by sliding your finger up or down. And now you can actually even narrow the beam of that flashlight here within the dynamic island. This is fantastic. I haven't seen any other phones that utilize the flash on the camera in this way. It's truly quite unique. Okay, bonus tip number 4. You remember the end scene of the Avengers Endgame, where Tony Stark uploads his likeness to AI. Well, if you didn't see it, just bear with me, because you might be glad that you set this one up in event of an untimely death. Not that death at any time is timely. So did you know you can create your own AI voice clone on the iPhone? And it's actually very easy to do, but it takes a little while to train it. But once it is set up, it really is quite impressive. I did one quite a while ago and I heard it today again, and it sounds so much like me. It's actually quite scary. Anyway, check this out. Go into your settings, go to accessibility, scroll down until you see personal voice. Now here you can create your own personal voice. You do have to repeat back to the phone 150 different phrases out loud, and the entire setup takes around 15 minutes. But once that's done, this voice can be used on your iOS devices. So now here's a question for you Android viewers out there. Which of these features would you most like to see on future Android devices? And if you're an Apple fan, well, I've got plenty more tips and tricks like these up my sleeve, but for the sake of keeping this video as concise as possible, I cut a lot of them out. So do let me know if you want to see a follow-up video from me on the iPhone 16. And guys, I know I might be wasting my time saying this, but please don't forget to subscribe. And if you just did, I will see you guys in the next one, so don't be late.